This is the age of the multidimensional self.
Hello there, it's Kelly here from Divine Alchemy Healing, and today I wanted to do a video on do's and don'ts to using a pendulum. First of all, I'm going to tell you some exciting news about our beautiful Divine Alchemy Healing Pendulum Workbook, which has currently only been available to buy as a hard copy. We've just decided to make this downloadable to save those of you who don't live in the UK some money on postage. So you can find that on our website, and it will say across the top it's the downloadable version. So let's talk about do's and don'ts with a pendulum. So the first thing I want to say about a do is to decide what you're working with, whether you're working with your subconscious mind or your higher self, whether you're working with a more external factor such as your personal guide team or healing guide team, or some high-level spiritual guides like archangels, ascended masters, galactic guides. I could go on, but you get the gist. Whether you're working with a chakra, for example, which is a wonderful way to work with a pendulum, or whether you're working with a loved one or someone that you know that passed over, whether that's a person or a pet perhaps. There's many other ways to work with a pendulum. I'm just trying to give you some ideas. For example, you could work with the frequency of a certain crystal. Perhaps you haven't got that crystal in your collection and you want to work with a crystal to find out some more things about if the crystal's got any messages for you or something like that. Of course, there's another way of working with pendulums that seems to be quite popular at the moment, and that is working with a letters board, or you could call it an Ouija board, to work with I'm going to say random entities, in the same way that sometimes people use an Ouija board to contact anyone who happens to be out there who wants to give them a message. This obviously can be done, but I would advise to don't do this unless you're very experienced and know what you're doing with this sort of thing. For example, entity clearers or mediums may sort of sometimes use a letters board with a pendulum to work with trapped entities who they want to help go back to source. Let's have a think about something else that is it's sort of not a do or a don't, but it's a check what your emotional state is like before you pick up your pendulum. Are you in a high stress state or feeling overwhelmed? Are you in a state of despair and you're going to pick up your pendulum to ask it some questions? Does my boyfriend still love me, or is he cheating on me, or something like that? You're probably going to get inaccurate answers if you're coming from a place of stress, anxiety, or overwhelm. So a do is to make sure when you work with your pendulum that you're in a very balanced and neutral space and place in your mind. A good way of doing this is taking some time to sit quietly, take some nice breaths in and out. Maybe you're listening to some beautiful music at the same time, and making sure you're grounded, so you've got your feet on the floor and you're thinking about your connection to this planet, because after all, we are living on the planet. We want to be grounded, because actually even when you're working with guides in particular, the more grounded you are, the better the connection you will have. Then you want to think about where you're working with your pendulum. What's your environment like? Are you living in a really busy city that's got constant beeping going on outside the window? Or are you in a nice, quiet and calm space? Obviously, you don't want to have things like the telly on or Maybe you don't even want other people sitting in the room with you, because that can be a distraction. And you do want to spend some time making a space that's good for you to work in. Maybe you'd like to put some crystals on your table or desk and light a candle. Maybe, there's other things that are important to you. Like if you were connecting with a loved one, you could put a photo of them so that you can look at it to connect with them visually before you start your work. So you've checked your environment, you've checked yourself, you've decided who or what you're going to work with. What's another do or don't? Let's think carefully about what questions you're going to ask once you've got your connection. Maybe write some down before you start. Then you can keep that connection going really nicely. Another do is to make sure that you have cleansed your pendulum before you start working. So in particular, if you're working with a crystal pendulum, I hope you can see that from here, you want to have made sure it's clean and free of any old energies. Crystals are renowned for picking up energies. There are a couple, like kyanite, for example, that doesn't, it self-cleanses as well, but most crystals, you do want to cleanse them before you start. Now, you can do that simply by, when you finish working with your crystal, you can place it on a piece of selenite like this. That will help cleanse and charge your crystal. You can also use visualization, which is another really simple way of working. So you can just visualize beautiful golden white divine light now cleansing your crystal. And you can also place them on a sacred symbol, such as something like Reiki symbols or something that's sacred to you. I'm going to show you a picture in our book of a Metatron's cube. This is my favourite symbol to work with. I leave all my crystal pendulums, actually I leave all my pendulums, not just my crystal ones, on this when I'm not working with them. So what's the next thing that you want to do when you're working with your pendulum? Maybe take a moment to connect with your pendulum before you start working. Again, you could do this when you're going through your little procedure of grounding, making sure you're feeling calm and relaxed. You could hold your pendulum in your hands and ask for a clear connection with your pendulum. Put that back there for a moment. And then another don't is to not ask about other people's stuff. So we shouldn't be using our pendulum without permission. So, for me, I work with clients, so often I do end up using my pendulum to ask certain questions, but that's with their permission in a session. And so, what we don't want to be doing is asking about other people's life or how they feel about you and things like that. Karmically, it's irresponsible and it's out of integrity as well. What else do we not want to do with a pendulum? So, as I said before, just to recover, we don't want to work with a pendulum if you are in a low energy state, but also if you've had alcohol or recreational drugs. It's probably best to leave your pendulum to a time when, you're not under the influence of something. Now, obviously, I'm aware some people, myself included, do have to take some various medicines on a day-to-day basis. I don't feel like they have the same sort of influence that may be working under the influence of, let's say, something like cannabis or acid even, or something like that, because they don't tend to affect your mind in the same way. So the next do is to keep your mind as neutral as possible. If you're asking yes and no answers, or if you're using a chart, you don't want to be projecting onto your pendulum what the answer is going to be, and I'm going to show you now how easy it is to do that. So let's use one of my different pendulums. Let's use this beautiful Isis pendulum. So I'm going to ask it a silly question now, and then I'm going to project the answer and show you. So first of all, I'm just going to check something. I'm going to just say, so I'm always going to just take a moment to connect with Metatron here, but say thank you. Can you affirm my name is Kelly? Can you affirm my name is George? Okay, so there's just a quick yes and no. And now I'm going to ask if I'm going to win next week's lottery, and I'm going to influence it. Okay, so thank you. Am I going to win next week's lottery jackpot? Am I going to win next week's lottery jackpot? So as you can see, it's saying yes, which I might just go out and buy a ticket now. But basically it's saying yes, because as I was saying that question in my mind, I was thinking, yes, I am. I'm going to win next week's lottery jackpot. And so of course it's going to reflect in the answer. So you want to work from a neutral space and try not to be attached to your answers. When you're working with a chart, it's a bit easier because there's quite a lot of options. And so I do two things when I'm working with a chart so that I'm not influencing. One, I don't put my reading glasses on so that I can see the options on the chart. And two, I try and look straight ahead. And I ask the question repeatedly until I can feel the pendulum is stabilized in a certain place. So that's just a sort of fairly straightforward way of working with a neutral mind. The other thing to say is to start cultivating the ability to have a neutral mind. One of the best things you can do is practice meditation regularly, and practice silent meditation or meditation on just one thing, like say, I'm going to meditate on the energy of love or something like that, and keep drawing yourself back to it, noticing when your mind has just wandered off, thinking about what the shopping you need to buy is or something like that, and then drawing it back. And even if you can do it for 5 seconds at a time of keeping a vaguely neutral mind, this will be of great benefit to you when working with your pendulum. So the next thing is working with a sense of respect, especially if you're working externally with guides or frequencies, but also if you're working for yourself. Respect yourself. Again, don't ask daft questions, and thank the guides or any aspect externally that you've worked with. As you end your session, thank your guides for helping you and assisting you. And then just before you end, or when you end, remember to re-put your pendulum somewhere where it can either recharge or do some cleansing. And just maybe thank for the session. That's what I tend to do. I always say, thank you. It is done, it is done, it is done, as my ending note. All right, well, I hope that helps. As I said before, if you're interested in our books, you can go and have a look at our website, and you can now get our downloadable version of this. We've also got some courses coming up in therapeutic healing with pendulums, which will teach you everything you need to know for working with charts, to discover root causes and really get good deep healing, and also to increase energies in your energy field that are beneficial to you. That's on the website as well. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and if you like this content, please do give us a like, write a comment, let us know if there's anything you think you would like us to do a video on, and yeah, if you don't mind clicking the subscribe button as well, we'd be delighted. Anyway, I'm wishing you a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.